maybe in Atlanta about 2 years ago, and a guy had on a Bob Dandridge number 10 Buck shirt.
Okay.
I was saying, where did you get that shirt from? He said, oh, this is Bob Dandridge's number. I said, oh my God. And that's the type of organization we've been a part of, for me, ever since I was 21 years old. Taking a guy like Giannis in the whole state of Wisconsin, embracing him and bringing him along at a pace that at some point, without a doubt, he will be recognized as the greatest Milwaukee Buck player.
Bobby D. What's up, man? What's up, baby?
You got it,
Yo,
Marcus.
man, you don't know how much of an honor this is for me to have you. Now, look, this is what we got to do first, though.
What we got to do?
We got to do so it's chopping it up with old school. I'm old school now, and you know, I'm
young
old
guy.
You know, yeah.
Young
So
guy.
I have all my guests do this. We can just chopping it up. Okay, I appreciate you. All right, thank you. Just humor me with that, man. But no, man. Look, there's so many places that we can start, and so you went to Norfolk State. You mentioned that, but let's go back before that. High school. Segregated schools in the 60s in Richmond, Virginia. Just that experience. What was it? Did you feel any kind of racism? Did you feel the segregation, or was it just like, hey, it is what it is, and we're just operating within the system that's here?
Well, like you said, that was what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, the only way you knew that there was any segregation as far as athletics was concerned was at the end of the basketball season, and here you have the state champions or the all-state team, and you wouldn't see any African-American guys in it. But then we would wait a week later, and then our state championship would come out, and our all-state players, and that was just the way it was, during that particular time in the state of Virginia, or in the South.
Who was Maggie Walker? Was that a black woman? Was that a white woman?
Maggie Walker was a black woman. She was a banker, the first female banker anywhere in the country, and she had multiple businesses, and she was probably one of the first. She was probably the first black businesswoman who made it big time anywhere in this country.
Well, I asked that because you went to Maggie Walker High School, so I just wanted to make sure she wasn't like some slave-owning white lady. You had to go to school at a school.
During that time, the black schools had meaningful names.
Right.
So they weren't named after any white folks.
How good in high school were you? What'd you average? You remember? Were you a 30-point per game guy?
No. I averaged about 15 or 16 points a game in high school because we played a discipline.
Okay.
We never ran a fast break.
Okay. A lot of passes.
Okay. Plays and all like that. And I really was considered the second best player in my class when I graduated from high school. There was a guy across town from me named Bonaparte, and he was averaging maybe about 25, 26 a game, and his team had won the black high school championship down in Tennessee. So he was the big guy in the city at that time.
Yeah.
And so he got all the accolades, but we both ended up going to the same college. We both ended up going to Norfolk State. And our coach was smart enough that he didn't tell either one of us that he was coaching the other one because we were crosstown rivals, and we would have never gone.
So you didn't know he was recruiting him? He didn't know that he was recruiting you? No. Bonaparte didn't know he was recruiting you. You know he was recruiting Bonaparte.
And the first day of school, we ended up saying, hey, what you doing here?
That's funny.
And so...
but how'd y'all get along? Y'all became free? Yeah.
Well, we got along, but we were competitive because by our junior year, I'm averaging about 27, 28 a game. He right there about 23 or 24 a game. But I was sort of just a little bit more devious because I knew at the halftime, I knew how many points he had, and I knew how many points
you knew what you had to put up in the second half.
And I knew what I had to do the second
That's funny. Oh, man.
half to outscore him. But we ended up being cool, you know, and we were roommates.
Wow.
So after games, we had to go home
together.
At night together.
And coexist in the same little tiny dorm room with the beds kind of almost touching.
There was no dorm rooms at Norfolk State. We stayed in the homes of people that lived right near the university because the school didn't have dorms, but it was a source of income for the families around the schools.
Right.
And it was a community thing because people who had never really gone to, maybe they may not have finished high school, a few of them went to college, now they became a part of the university because they were helping students complete their education by housing them. And then it was also a source of income for those families.
All right, so we're talking about college, Norfolk State, you and Bonaparte being college roommates. But man, this is the beauty of talking to somebody like you. So I'm doing my research on you, and I find out that another one of your college teammates is Pee Wee Kirkland. Bobby D. I may have known it on a certain level, but it just really hit me today. How was Pee Wee? How was his game? How was he in Harlem, New York? He's a guy that turned down the ABA or somebody because
the Chicago Bulls. Because he was making more money in another life
out in the streets. Hustling.
But the interesting thing about him was that at Norfolk State we were a running team, and every year I was there for 4 years. We averaged at least 102, 103 a game. My junior year, we were actually averaging 110 at mid-season.
Wow.
And when they were talking about UCLA back in Norfolk, we were somehow, man, y'all about 8 points behind us as far as, anyway, Pee Wee, whatever his lifestyle was, he came to Norfolk State and he had 1 year of eligibility. And, you know, all the New York stuff followed him. But the number one thing about him was that we ran 4 miles a day before a 2.5-hour practice. Pee Wee came in first every day among 15 ball players. Pee Wee came in first every day, and he came, and most days he'd come in a lap, sometimes 2 laps ahead of everybody. So he was a great disciplined athlete, and once the season started and we started practicing, actually, Pee Wee was not the starting point guard until about 3 weeks before the season. Our starting point guard broke his arm. And then Pee Wee stepped into the starting point guard spot. Although Pee Wee would have probably been the 6th man that year, but he stepped into because we had another guy out of Durham, North Carolina named Tommy Long, and he was an excellent point guard, and I tease John Lucas all the time because he and John Lucas went to the same high school. And I tell John Lucas, you the second best point guard to ever come out of Durham, North Carolina, and Lucas gets upset. But Pee Wee stepped into the starting lineup, and all the New York stuff that he had, he put that to the side because the point guard's job was to run the fast break and to get it to the shooters. And at that time, it was myself and Bonaparte.
Your boy Bonaparte, right. Cross-town rival.
And Pee Wee ran the fast break to the max. And at the conclusion of the season, we won the regular season championship. And then we go to the conference tournament, the CIAA conference tournament, and we played North Carolina A&T, a triple overtime game, and I foul out in the second overtime. Bonaparte is out, so the only true starter we got on the floor is Pee Wee Kirkland going into the third overtime, and so the assistant coach tells the head coach, look, you got to let Pee Wee go, take the restraints off of him. Well, once the third overtime started, I'm sitting on the bench with my humble self, and I says, if we win this game, I'm the MVP. Well, Pee Wee scores 15
in overtime. In the third overtime.
In the third overtime, and he snatches the MVP away from me. And I just need to say, forever what his off the basketball court life is, that he stayed in contact with me.
Did he? Okay.
You know, wherever he was, he would call me, I would call him. And I can say he and I just had a mutual admiration for each other. And I'm in New York, maybe doing 1999. I'm crossing 7th Avenue. I see a guy holler at me and call me, "Hey, Pick." And it's Pee Wee. He's coaching this high school team up in New York, and he asked me to come in and talk to the team. In that particular year, his high school team won the state Catholic New York championship for the first time in the history of New York City. And as I said, no matter what his lifestyle has been, and in fact, he really stunned us, because when my college coach died, a guy named was Ernie Fierce, who put a lot of just positive stuff into us as young men. And Pee Wee spoke at the funeral, and Pee Wee said that the one thing he got from playing at Norfolk State was a faith in God, because our coach was just a spiritual guy. And when Pee Wee said that, you know, that was like a ground, that was like a revelation. And like I said, no matter what his lifestyle was,
for the record,
just a great guy.
For the record, Pee Wee Kirkland was a Harlem drug kingpin that spent time in prison.
Yeah.
I was looking at some of his stats in prison. He had a 100-point game, 135-point game. I mean, and just one of the all-time legendary Rucker League players with Earl Manigault and Dr. J and all these guys back in the 60s. But he started lecturing kids. He started coaching high school. Yeah. And so there's a happy ending to that story in terms of him, you know, understanding what he had been through and how he could use that to help other young people.
Which he's doing.
Yeah, which he's done. So that's a great end to that. So now let's move on, Pick, to the Milwaukee Bucks. Greyhound, and
you can't leave that alone, can you? Slam.
I can't slam him. I got into a Twitter beef with a guy. His nickname is the Greyhound. I was like, when I got here, they were calling him Pick, so I'm gonna call him Pick. So,
yeah, whatever.
But let's go to the Milwaukee Bucks. 1969, you get drafted. 4th round, you get the Kentucky Colonels also drafted you.
Yeah.
Why not the Colonels? It was that Dan Issel and Louis Dampier and Hubie Brown and the artist was
that was exactly why I didn't choose the Kentucky Colonels, because what I saw was playing for the University of Kentucky.
Right.
And when I told the scout from Kentucky that I was coming to camp in Milwaukee, I let him know that I never dreamed of playing in the ABA, but I did dream about playing in the NBA.
Okay.
And once I said that, that was it.
So you get here with Kareem, you're on the all-rookie team. I was 69. Kareem back in those days. Now I've known Kareem for a while now, and people, you know, you get this stoic, unapproachable guy, but he's got a silliness to him. Did you ever get the chance to see silly Kareem back in those days when he was like such a young man?
Yeah, when he wore a Sherlock Holmes hat throughout practice one day because he had a migraine.
Okay, all right, whatever that means. But so now then. When did Oscar get here?
Oscar came here my second year, 70, 71.
So that was the championship year?
Yeah.
Okay. And people don't realize that, I mean, I saw a great stat, Bobby D, that during the 70s, you scored more points than anybody in the NBA Finals. Kareem, anybody. I forgot the number. But the people, then your career average is like 18 or whatever it is, but your playoff averages is like 20 points a game.
Yeah.
What was it about? You know, and see, I got on my throwback Crenshaw stuff here.
Yeah.
Crenshaw, I got on my low top. Did you ever play these low top black chucks?
No, I never.
Okay.
Those are some retros. Those are some remakes.
Yeah, but I mean, like the Celtics used to wear these back in the day.
Okay.
But the point is, I was 15 years old at Crenshaw High School watching you, and you were one of the guys. I don't know why. You know, you just kind of. You fascinated me. Your game was your game was efficient. you know, you didn't miss the baseline jumper. Nobody ever, I ain't never seen nobody block your shot. It may have happened, but you were able to get your shot off.
A few times.
Yeah, but you got your shot off pretty consistently. Well, come on, that's. But I mean, a man guarding you. You were able to do what you had to do to get that shot off. Where did that style, who influenced you growing up? Where did your style of play, or did anybody influence you? Was it just something you developed on your own?
Well, my hero growing up when I was young was Bob Pettit.
LSU, my dad loved him. I'm from Natchitoches, Louisiana, boy. You ain't said nothing.
You know, he used to shoot from the baseline.
From the corner jumper. Yeah.
And that's where I got the corner stuff from. But my senior year at Norfolk State, I played center at 6'6".
Okay.
So that's when I started playing with my back to the basket, and my senior year I averaged 32 a game.
Wow.
My senior year playing center. But a lot of it was, you know, when you come in the league and you're playing with Kareem, you're playing with Flynn Robinson, you're playing with John McLaughlin, it's not a lot of shots, left there. So I pretty much took whatever shot was available. I ran on the break, had a good mid-range shot. And then when Oscar came to town, then I saw how he would sort of pump fake a guy, wait for him to come down.
Okay.
So I started to emulate him. Him, you know, he pump fake.
I see that.
He'd still be right there in that position. And as you came down,
he's lifting up.
Went up.
He's raising up. You can't go up and come down at the same time.
You can't do both. But the key was to have this elbow in the guy's face.
Right.
So if he gets too close to him, at that time you could whack him across the nose, and that would get him off you. So that's where all that came from.
Okay. And so I heard your Hall of Fame speech is one of the greatest all-time Hall of Fame speeches I've ever heard. Did you was that from memory? Did you? I mean, I don't ever remember you saying you looking down at notes or anything.
No.
Did you do that off the cuff, or did you have an idea, kind of what you? I'm just saying in case I get it. You know, maybe in my 70s at some point, the Veterans Committee, maybe. But where did that come from?
Well, you know, what really messed me up was a month before you're supposed to give your speech, they want a copy of it.
Okay.
So I said, well, how you going to sort of work this out? Because you don't want to really give them everything you want to say, because they might try to cut it out.
Right.
Because they really didn't know what kind of speech I was going to give from them having to make me wait so long. But I wrote a speech, and you practice it the day ahead of time, and you're on the teleprompter. And so I'm doing okay with the teleprompter. I done wrote the speech out, and one of the directors that was there, I asked him, I said, well, what's the best speech? He said, when you talk from your heart. And I said, interesting. So I got, Chris Webber sort of opened the door for me, because Chris talked about some black history. He talked about some spiritual thing. So I said, I can go in any direction that I want to go with this. And so I got up there, and for about the first 15 seconds, I'm reading the teleprompter. But then it just didn't feel right.
Right.
And so I knew what I had written for the speech, and I said, look, just go for it.
Right.
And as I perused the audience, connecting with folks in the audience, and I said, you know what, you can take this wherever you want to, because the speech was only supposed to be 6 or 7 minutes.
And it was like 17. You was about 17.
I was rude.
Yeah, you were.
But I saw that I had the crowd.
Yeah.
I said, you got them.
Right.
You got them. And I just went from the heart with what I felt, and it was just a good feeling, because it's not too often you get a chance that you can let people see who you really are.
Right.
And this, you know, I laugh and joke and stuff a whole lot, but I said, look, I'm gonna give them.
Yeah.
It
was from the heart, and it was memorable. I mean, I watched it recently today, but I also saw it live, and it was just one of those speeches. I said, I gotta watch this thing again, because I remember it as being a special Hall of Fame speech.
Yeah. So it was a special time for me. It was a special time for my family, and I know he may get mad at me, but the doc finally hugged me.
Dr. J? Was that one of the grudges? Was that one of the grudges? That wasn't one of the grudges? Was that one of the grudges you said you finally let go of? No.
Yeah.
You and Doc? No, I'm just kidding, man.
But he finally hugged me and said, you one of the greatest small forwards. And I said, come on, tell the truth.
Yeah, see, you know what? Yeah, I was going to say, because if you watch old clips of Bobby D guarding Dr. J, I mean, I'm sure he scored some points on you, but you're stripping him, you're challenging his jumper, you up in him. I mean, you played him exceptionally well. But man, look, so that was with the Bucks, championship in '71, first championship for the city. That had to be special, doing it the way you guys did it. But then, my favorite story is forwarding on to 2008. So we're at the 40-year anniversary of the Milwaukee Bucks, all anniversary team, me, you, and all these great players, former Bucks. So we're sitting next to each other at an autograph signing or something. We never really talked at all, I mean, I always, but I told you why, and I was like, I felt like when I got here in '77, we went at each other before training camp started, and you were traded. I said, well, maybe Bobby D is mad at me for getting traded to D.C., from Milwaukee to D.C. And what did you tell me? Do you remember what you told me?
I said something about I wanted to go.
I'm going home. I'm going home.
It was time for me to leave.
Yeah.
And I always said, I said, you know what? Marcus really thinks that they traded you because he was coming. I said I could have stayed, but it was time for me to leave, and I knew Nelson and I won't go get along. Okay. Because you're a veteran.
You're a veteran. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a young team coming in. You, Quinn, JB, Brian, and that crew.
Kent Benson.
Yeah, and I knew it was. I've been here 8 years. How much longer can you stay in the snow?
But it's funny, just my preconception, maybe, he got some holding something against me because, and then you tell me, DC's close to Virginia. He's like, they sent me home to a great team. To another big three. Team. Talk about that quickly. The Bullets, you, Wes Unsealed, the late, great, God rest his soul, and Elvin Hayes. Yeah. What was it like playing with those? How did you and Elvin get along? That's what I want to know.
Elvin and I got along great.
Oh, really?
Because
I wish I could say that.
Playing here with the big old Kareem, even McLaughlin and Mickey Davis, I had to, my game had gone beyond the physical thing.
Right.
And I knew, when I went to Washington, Dick Marta told me right away, this is your team.
Wow.
What?
With Wes Unsealed and Elvin Hayes?
Yeah. He said, this is your team. And I said, wow. Because every player at some point wants his team.
Right.
What I do determines how far we get. And you know the feeling.
Well, I see that now. I mean, when I think about those teams back then, you were the guy.
Yeah. This is my team.
In crunch time, in clutch time, when they wouldn't go to Big E, you couldn't go to West, but they get you on the baseline, and you like baseline jump up.
And I was able to bring everybody together. Wes and I got along. He didn't get along with Elvin, but I got along with Elvin. So it was almost like, look, I'm in the middle of this thing. We're going to work this thing out. And see, Elvin and I got to be, we played well together because one of Dick Marta's favorite plays was the forwards crossing and picking for each other. Okay. So we were constantly getting each other free.
Okay.
And then being playing that three position, you're in control of a whole lot of stuff. You get to run the break, you get to distribute it, who you are. And sometimes I played mind games with Elvin and them just to motivate them to bring us together as a team. bringing the ball up the floor, give it to Elvin. Sometimes I'd pass up a shot and get it to Wes. Right. And so I got along with everybody, no matter if Wes and Elvin didn't get along, that's y'all's business.
Right.
But when we go on this floor, then we playing together as a team. And so going to Washington was just like, hell, Kareem had LA, Oscar had the Bucks. Well, okay, I got Washington now. Yeah. And, we had our teams in college.
Right.
And that's what everybody wants.
So that second championship with Washington, what was that, 78? 78. So that championship, that had to be, the first one's special in Milwaukee, but that one, being your own team, that situation, at that, you were in your 30s, you're like maybe early 30s.
33, 32.
Wow. What was that feel? That had to be a special feeling for you. Okay.
Amazing. No feeling like it when you feel and that if I wasn't here, this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And then to be in Washington, D.C., which at that time was known as Chocolate City.
Right.
And to be
great energy, everything.
That energy to go to the White House for the motorcade to go through the inner city and go through Capitol Hill, and they had come close to winning a couple of times, but had never won it. And it was just a tremendous feeling where, here I'm dragging behind Kareem. And the big O. But now, okay, Bobby D, and to do it in Washington, D.C. in what was called Chocolate City, and to see all the African Americans celebrating, and the city of D.C. And the district of D.C. celebrating was just an unbelievable feeling.
So let's go back to Milwaukee. Finally, this current team, the new arena, Fiserv Forum, Giannis, and the whole thing. Just your impressions on what this organization, what management, what these owners have done here the last 5-6 years.
Just been sort of something I feel great about. Just have done just a tremendous job. By the fact of winning a championship, most seasons having the best record, being able to bring some guys in that got some heart, not just a bunch of soft guys, and that's what it takes to win a championship. And then probably taking a guy like Giannis and the whole state of Wisconsin, embracing him and bringing him along at a pace that at some point, without a doubt, he will be recognized as the greatest Milwaukee Buck player. I don't know if it's going to be a year from now, but at the end of his career, and we hope that he finishes it here in Milwaukee, has been just outstanding. And it just seems like, for you and I to be sitting here and being a part of the organization where a lot of teams don't bring us back.
Yes.
And the Bucks have embraced the players that have played here.
That's special, isn't it?
It's special.
People don't realize how special that is.
That's special, and to come back here and the fans still appreciate you. Who would think a kid 10 years old would ask for an autograph from a guy who played in the
70s.
In the 1970s, but I was somewhere in an airport, maybe in Atlanta about 2 years ago, and a guy had on a Bob Dandridge number 10 Buck shirt.
Okay.
I was saying, where did you get that shirt from? He said, this is Bob Dandridge's number. I said, oh my God. And that's the type of organization we've been a part of, for me, ever since I was 21 years old.
Yeah, and quickly, my story, because when they asked me to to consider being the TV analyst. I was like, I don't want to go back to Milwaukee. I ain't been back to Milwaukee in 30 years. I'm in LA. I'm cool. So well, come on back and just see how it goes. So I came back and did an audition tape with Jim Paschke, but I went to George Webb's restaurant across from the Hyatt. Walked in, the cook is like, Marcus Johnson, baby, we ain't seen you in 30 years. My parents are the biggest fans. Just can I have them come down and get an autograph? I was like, sure. Parents came down, walked into the Bradley Center at that time, and when I walked in, a bunch of workers were working, sweeping up, doing some stuff. Marcus, baby, what's up, man? You coming back, man? You coming home? Now, I don't know if the Bucks planned that or what, but whatever, and I know they didn't, but for me, just to be remembered as by these fans as someone who played hard. I mean, our teams played hard. We didn't win the championship. We got close. Dr. J and Larry Bird and Kevin McHale and Moses Malone. But we gave it what we had, all we had. Yeah. And the fans appreciate that.
Yes.
You talk about these fans in Milwaukee, just in closing.
Just great fans. You know, and it took me leaving, going to Washington for 5 or 6 years, and I came back after about 15 years, and I recognized the guy's a season ticket holder from the old arena. And he said, Bob, I appreciate you being here, that you would think enough of us to come back. And I told a lady today, the best 8 years of my life was right here in Milwaukee. I mean, in spite of the snow, in spite of everything I complained about. Although when I was here, they was glad I left after about 8 years. Well, but look, it's great to be back, always.
Well, look, I want to echo that sentiment. I appreciate you being here with me on Chopping It Up with Olskool, man. It's been a pleasure, man. We chopped it up good, man. Appreciate you, brother.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Right. Thanks for having me,
Marcus. Man.